as you know, in 1944, Bretton Woods system started. So it's a long history, but in Bretton Woods system, its system didn't have the adjustment process. So in the case of China, quota of China is only 4%. It's below the Benelux countries. So it's very unnatural one. US Congress or another vested interest group don't want to accept such kind of things. So they didn't address the new realities. So new schemes should be presented in order to alter, in order to change the status quo.
Well, certainly the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank could need yet another burst of reform, and the G20 agreed that the emerging economies led by China should have a greater voice and vote at the International Monetary Fund. Sadly, the United States has been unable to actually implement that commitment because of some problems with the Congress of the United States, which is not particularly outward-looking at the moment. So that is very frustrating, but there are other issues on IMF reform. Since the beginning, to get the top job at the IMF, you had to be a citizen of a European country. And to get the top job at the World Bank, you had to be an American citizen, born in the USA. It's as if nobody from any other country could even apply for the job. A few years ago, the G20 agreed, oh yeah, everybody could, but then the next appointments were same old. So I think we need to look forward to a world in which a citizen of Canada or China, if they deserve it, if they can make it on their merit, could get the top job. We also have to take these two institutions, born in the world of 1944, and turn them into focusing on the problems of the 21st century. So we need the World Bank to do green development, ecologically sustainable development, and we need the International Monetary Fund to do that as well.
I think the major developed countries have already accepted that premise. With the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, voting in that was heavily weighted toward Europe, where some rather small European countries had very large voting shares. Back in 2010, the US led the way in reforming the IMF voting share distribution. Unfortunately, having led the way in creating a new package, the US Congress did not agree to make the change necessary in the US allocation that was required for that new voting arrangement to take place, to actually take effect. So we have failed to follow through on what we recognized was the direction that we should move. I can see the frustration over that. And I can tell you President Obama is frustrated over that. He has sent that package back to the Congress every year for 5 years and has not been able to get the Congress to agree to it. So I think it is natural that as countries develop economies that have a large footprint in the world, they should have a larger role in the global financial institutions. China has had a larger role in the World Bank, but still, arguably, it should have a bigger role still. And I think that's the direction in which things are moving.
Well, I would say two things. First of all, it's going to be very important in order to stabilize the international order for it to be renovated and for room to be made at the table for rising powers. And so I think that's one one part of the challenge. On the other hand, the institutions that have been established have made huge contributions to the international order that has benefited all mankind and has benefited China as China has risen. And so, you know, we have to strike a balance. Those rules were made by other countries, it's true, and in particular the United States. They weren't China's rules, but there was a logic to those rules. Just because they were kind of branded made in America doesn't mean they're wrong. And so the question is, how do you strike a balance in which you maintain rules that serve everybody, but make sure that there is room at the table for rising powers who have reason to expect that they will have a greater say in decision making.